Welcome to the 8th edition of World Intellectual Property Forum.
I wish to talk about IPRs and related issues with respect to use of biological resources. I chose this topic to seek inputs from the learned participants of this August group on how do we take the appreciation and assimilation of intellectual property rights to government-funded public sector and other academic institutions and universities. Which is why I say IP perspective for research-driven development. Basically, in this short presentation, I speak from my exposure in the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. And I'll be taking you from my exposure on IP issues with respect to biodiversity and plant variety rights. About the patents, we also know that patents in life sciences have also been passing through challenging times. We do remember the Novartis Section 3D case in India. And so thereafter, so many cases of patents in life sciences and the recent CRISPR-Cas9 patent case in the Western world. Clearly, there is vulnerability evident for patents in life sciences. Because of the international and national treaties and laws, relationship building for collaborative research and work to harness synergies has also been quite challenging. For that, I speak from experience in international relations in ICAR. A good progress has been made for internalization of IPR externality in national scientific organizations like ICAR, CSIR, ICMR, and DRDO. These organizations have systems in place for IP protection and commercialization, and for their professional service functions for external agencies. Also for collaborative research work with other institutions. Indeed, we need to make these institutions' practices more robust in the national institutions and important laboratories. But the challenge is to take the same message to the large number of other academic institutions and universities in India. Today, particularly science and technology related government departments in the central government, and also to an extent similar departments in the state governments. They've been doing a lot in this direction. Yet, we have to still go a long way. Here I present the favorable policy environment in India. The central government is already thinking for facilitating availability of scholarly literature to everyone. Schools have started teaching about IPRs after the national IPR policy. Under education policy, there is proposed a shift from rote learning, that is learning by cramming, which is generally seen in India in education systems. The shift is there for logic and understanding, and particularly the final year of the undergraduate degree, there is now emphasis on research. I was happy to learn about an academic ethics policy that was talked during the current year. An attempt has been done to make guidelines for academic institutions for implementation of our IPR policy. With private firm Clarivate as the knowledge partner, the University Grants Commission has come out with good academic research practices for raising benchmarks for research quality and reputation of science from India. We know the lot of expansion and improvement in working of our patent granting offices. Clearly, a great conducive environment is building up. Just a quick reference to the international treaties. With highest membership strength of 196 in CBD, the Convention of Biological Diversity, obviously CBD becomes a more universal agreement compared to all other legally binding international treaties mentioned here. Nagoya Protocol under CBD and FAO's ITPGRFA came as an effort to provide the mechanism to facilitate access and use of respectively the biological resources and the plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. For plant variety rights, since the option for flexibility was there under Article 27.3b of TRIPS, the International UPOF Treaty from WIPO has been able to garner only a limited 76 membership. Why is there a limited progress in all other international treaties other than WTO TRIPS? Two reasons. One, IPRs and sovereign rights on biodiversity both have to be respected and honored. Two, while WTO has a multilateral enforcement mechanism, enforcement in other legally binding treaties has been left to individual nations. It is the responsibility of individual nations that there is little progress under CBD. Please see here the recent news. Despite the declaration by United Nations of 2011-2020 as the decade on biodiversity, the results are disappointing at best. The disappointing for achievements of development goals which were set for 2020. None of the 20 targets could be achieved. Some progress in 6 out of 20 targets is at best a negligible progress. Same questions apply to achievements under Nagoya Protocol and ITPGRFA. So the basic issue is the underlying intellectual property issues in use of biological resources. Here I refer to India's 3 laws on use of biological resources. Under the Biological Diversity Act, there is progress on important issues like approvals for execution of agreements for use of India's bioresources. A good increase is there in the list of exempted, normally traded commodities. There is improvement in records developed as people's biodiversity registers. The grant of various other permissions under the law have also seen a good progress. But still, for users of biological resources, the concerns do remain in plenty. Recently, I learned about the input being sought from different departments, therein initiating the exercise for amendments of our biodiversity law. Hopefully, the concerns will also be increasingly addressed. About the plant variety rights law, let me not say much because I have been so much associated with this law. While there is progress under the PPFR law, there are serious concerns of both industry and the farmers. That is why the old Seed Act 1966 remains, and the new seed bill, which is desired to be in conformity with the PPFR Act, continues to be under discussion for almost 20 years now. Recently, however, the seed bill issue has been deliberated more. So I'm hoping, yes, I'm hoping that the new Seed Act will come soon. In 2008, on the lines of the BIODOL Act in United States, the Department of Biotechnology and Government of India had piloted the public funded intellectual property bill. This aimed at providing the required freedom to research institutions and universities. But this was shelved after a good deal of interdepartmental discussions. Let us hope the policies and guidelines of the Government of India that I mentioned in the beginning will soon lead to addressing this dimension again. During the meanwhile, I wish that guidelines like in ICR, like in CSIR, and the recent ones that I mentioned that have been developed by Government of India will help the academic institutions and universities. During the late 1990s, after the BT cotton gin event could not be purchased from the MNC by the government system, it was negotiated and purchased by a private Indian seed company. During late 90s and later, there was also a talk for a government supported system for technology acquisition from abroad, but that also could not come through so far. The complexity of patents involved in the golden rice case also became an obstacle in delaying the arrival of golden rice technology in India. The ISRO Antariksh litigation case has come so much in the newspapers. So what I would say is that technology commercialization from public or government sector, despite some progress, has its serious issues. Clearly, we need to deliberate and develop a settled approach for intellectual property protection and technology commercialization from S&T academic institutions and universities in India. Therefore, internalization of IPR externality in academic institutions and universities is absolutely necessary. The news about WTO's not allowing the IPR waiver for COVID vaccine and treatments, even in the present difficult times, despite the backing by World Health Organization of the United Nations, it further underscores the need for appreciation and assimilation of IP dimensions in academic institutions and universities. Here I am remembering the patent litigation cases that I got exposed to during my handling of IPR issues in ICR. I wish I could spend a long time on each of these litigation cases, but obviously that is not possible. So I limit myself to basic lessons that were learned for academic institutions in India from these litigation cases. Frankly, we need a settled approach for the following points in the green font. One, we require a much more techno-legal skills in both research and regulatory systems. When contesting IP litigation cases, both quality and quantity of research data assumes importance. Traceability of use of biological resources is necessary under all the laws, whether the Biological Diversity Act, Patent Act, or Plant Variety Act. So a proper maintenance of records during conduct of research has become very important. From the Haldi patent case, strengthening further the CSIR TKDL efforts on documentation and management of traditional knowledge has become so necessary. Besides the review of non-patent literature, as our academic institutions routinely do while submitting their research project proposals, appreciating the patent literature using the free and paid patent search engines has become so necessary. This is my last slide. I only wanted to stir a discussion on how can we go forward in taking the IPR message to all academic institutions and universities in India, so that our researchers do not lose IP by ignorance. I will end by saying that I have learned so much from this group, both from deliberations inside the auditoriums and also from discussions on various stalls put up by different IPR related technical and legal firms. Therefore, I conclude by saying that this so learned and aware community needs to shape further the building of IPR capacities in academic institutions and universities. Finally, I would again stress that we must have in-depth brainstorming on how to go about taking the IPR message to academic institutions and universities. Thank you so much.